What if Deku had all for one? Chapter 6. Deku sat on the beach, meditating. He had gotten 2 amazing new quirks, but needed to make sure he could fully control them. Deku thought back to when he stole Super Regeneration. It kind of activated on its own. Do I have any control over it? Deku thought to himself. Deku thought for a second, wondering how he could test this. He thought back to how he cut off the nearest hand with a portal. I could do that to myself. Deku gulped. I guess I should just prick my finger or something. Something that won't affect me if it doesn't activate. What about Warp Gate? I managed to control it pretty well straight away. Deku opened his eyes and activated Warp Gate. His arm turned black and a portal opened up in front of him. Through the black smoke, Deku could see his living room. This is a very interesting quirk. I just need to imagine where I want to go, and the portal opens. Deku closed the portal and sat back down. Meanwhile, All Might was at UA talking to Nezu. How could he be alive? I crushed his skull, All Might yelled. He probably had some sort of regeneration quirk, Nezu said. All Might fell to his knees. I failed. I gave my all in that fight. It is very likely that he is also weaker, because it's been 6 years, and this is the first time that we've heard anything. What did Midoriya say about him? He said he was wearing a breathing mask, and seemed to have several tubes and things going in him. Okay, it sounds like I was right. He was probably heavily injured from the fight, just like you were. All Might raised his head, looking a bit better. Now, on to other matters. I've received a call from Cerberus Prison, said Nezu. All Might looked at Nezu confused. They heard about young Midoriya, and had an interest in using his power to deal with some of their prisoners. Principal, young Midoriya hates taking powers. He views it more as a last resort, said All Might. Nezu sipped some tea and looked at All Might. All Might, there are some very dangerous people who completely lose their ability to hurt people again, said Nezu. All Might sighed. He agreed with the principal that this was the right thing to do. I'll talk to him, but he won't like it. Nezu nodded and All Might left the room. A few hours later, All Might arrived on the beach and waved over to Deku. Deku had been training his Warp Gate quirk and testing its limits. Hey kid, can we talk? All Might said. Deku was a couple of 100 meters away from All Might, so he opened a portal, arriving right next to him. Wow, that's impressive, said All Might. I know, it's really useful, said Deku. All Might sat down and patted the sand next to him. Sit down, we need to talk, said All Might. Deku sat down, confused what was going on. Cerberus Prison has asked for you specifically. What do you mean? Asked Deku. They want you to use your quirk on some dangerous villains so that they won't be a threat anymore. Deku gulped and looked at his hands. How could you even ask me that? I've told you how it feels when I take a power. It feels like I'm tearing apart their soul, said Deku. I know you hate it, but you could really be helping people. These are dangerous people, and with your help, they'll be safe to move to a lower security prison, said All Might. I understand what you mean, but it's such an awful feeling. The only time I didn't feel it was when I took the Nomu's quirk. It felt almost natural, like the power wasn't meant to be there. All Might put his hand on Deku's shoulder. It's your choice, but please think it over. Even if it's just one person, it would be a massive help. Deku nodded. I'll think about it, said Deku. The next day, Deku teleported into class. Wow, Deku, that's so cool, said Uraraka. Yeah, it is. I get an extra hour in bed, Deku said. Uraraka giggled and then Aizawa walked in. Next week, we'll be holding the sports festival. Train hard, everybody. Can we go right now? Asked Deku. Sure thing, said Aizawa. As soon as he said that, Deku fell through a portal in the floor, along with his chair and table. A few seconds passed, and the chair and table fell through another portal, returning to where they were. That's going to happen a lot, isn't it? Said Aizawa. Deku had teleported to the beach, where his training began again. Deku trained day after day to improve his control over his powers. On the second day, All Might came to pay him a visit. Hey kid, it looks like your training is coming along well, All Might said. Yeah, I really want to win the sports festival, Deku said. That's great. I've been thinking, said Deku. All Might looked at Deku confused. About who would be a good fit to give one for all to. All Might lowered his head. He was still hoping that he could find a way to give it to Deku. There are lots of strong people in my class, said Deku. All Might sat down in the sand. Who are you thinking of? Asked All Might. There is a couple. Kirishima is a good fit. He's got a heroic heart and always strives for improvement, and his quirk would be a great fit, as he might be able to handle more of the power. All Might nodded. Or there is Bakugo. He's a difficult person to get along with, but that comes with an amazing drive to be the best. He never gives up. Also, with the boost he would get from his quirk, he would be unbeatable. Is there anybody else? Asked All Might. Deku thought for a second. Todoroki. I haven't talked to him much, but he's insanely powerful. I'll think about them, and I'll talk to them on my own. I trust your judgment, but I just want to make sure, said All Might. All Might patted Deku on the shoulder and stood up. Now, show me what you've got. Deku stood up. Okay, I figured out how my regeneration works. I have no control over it. It happens the moment I take any damage. That's very useful, said All Might. It's also very powerful. Let me show you. Deku formed a portal and put his hand through it. He then slammed it shut, slicing off his hand. All Might gasped and ran over to him. What are you doing? Yelled All Might. Deku held out his arm and it suddenly began to rapidly regrow his hand. After only a few more seconds it was back to normal. It hurts like hell, but it's amazing, said Deku. All Might looked at Deku amazed, but very concerned. Yes, it's amazing, but you still shouldn't go around chopping off your hands, said All Might. What about your other power? Oh yeah, Warp Gate. It's really good. I managed to control it pretty well straight away, which is good. Deku opened a portal underneath his feet and fell through it. It appeared behind All Might. I can go pretty much anywhere as long as I can visualize it or have the coordinates. Very good, said All Might. The two kept talking, but eventually All Might had to leave. Deku continued training for the remainder of the week. Eventually it was the time for the sports festival to begin. After the opening ceremony it was time for the race to begin. All the students got up from the starting line, ready to begin. The klaxon sounded, and Todoroki filled the passage with ice. This blocked everyone's advance. Deku smirked. That was a cheap trick, but I think mine is cheaper. Deku opened a portal underneath him, and he fell through it. All the students around him got very confused. Deku reappeared in the arena. And Midoriya wins, yelled President Mike. The crowd didn't even react. They were just so confused. What was this kid's quirk? Did he just teleport? After a few moments, however, the awkward silence ended and the cheering began. Next up was the cavalry battle, and Deku came up with a good strategy. Deku transformed into his sludge form and absorbed his team, holding them within his sludge. This is gross, but at least we are winning, yelled Todoroki. At one point, Todoroki managed to freeze part of the sludge, but it was regrew quickly. Eventually, the time ran out and the one-on-one fights could begin. Deku's first opponent was Shinzo. As soon as the match began, Deku opened a portal underneath Shinzo, teleporting him out of the arena. And Midoriya wins, yelled President Mike. Deku's next fight was against Todoroki. The two fighters walked onto the stage and faced off. This is going to be tough, said Deku. Begin, yelled President Mike. As soon as the match began, Todoroki launched a massive ice wall at Deku. It crashed into the side of the stadium, kicking up dust. What happened? Was it just like Todoroki's first fight? Yelled the audience. No, look, behind him, yelled another audience member. Deku has teleported behind Todoroki, yelled President Mike. Deku formed a sludge arm and smashed Todoroki in the side of the head. Todoroki was sent spinning into the ground. Deku has gotten a good hit off Todoroki. Will he be able to recover? Yelled President Mike. I can't figure out what the green kid's quirk is. He can teleport, but he also seems to have control over sludge. Midoriya has the power to steal quirks from others. The quirks you've seen him use are the powers from villains, said Aizawa. What an evil power. He shouldn't be a hero, said a member of the audience. Who said that? Whichever one of you said that, whether they be hero or civilian, should go home. Midoriya has one of the greatest drives to become a hero I've ever seen, and he only uses his power as a last resort, said Aizawa. The audience fell quiet as the fight continued. Todoroki got to his feet, and he was a little bit dizzy from the hit, but he soon recovered. Deku formed two sludge arms, lunging at Todoroki. He got ready to dodge the attack. Deku opened a portal and punched through it. The sludge fists collided with the back of Todoroki's head, forcing him to the ground. Damn portals, yelled Todoroki. Todoroki slammed his palm into the ground, sending a massive ice spike in Deku's direction. Thinking fast, Deku opened another portal, appearing behind Todoroki. He kicked him hard in the back with a sludge leg, sending him spinning to the side. Damn it! Why can't I hit him? Yelled Todoroki. Todoroki started shaking. He was actually getting angry. He fired another ice wall at Deku, but Deku evaded it as well. I'm sorry, but you won't beat me with ice alone. It's too slow. You need to use your flames. No, I won't. I will beat you with my ice. Todoroki slammed his palm into the ground, sending a massive ice wall towards Deku. Deku sighed, and he hoped Todoroki would try something else. Just like before, Deku opened a portal and teleported behind Todoroki. However, this time something was different. As soon as Deku stepped out of the portal, Todoroki fired another ice wall at him. This was too fast for Deku to react, and it collided with his arm. Deku was stuck with his arm frozen. "Give up, otherwise you'll get frostbite," said Todoroki. Deku didn't say anything. He turned his arm into sludge and simply pulled it off. "Oh my god, what the hell?" yelled the audience. Deku stood with only one arm, bleeding in the middle of the arena. "What's going on? I'm stopping this fight," yelled Midnight. Midnight got ready to step in, but Deku held out his hand. "Don't bother," said Deku. Before All Might could reply, Deku's arm was reformed and it was good as new. The crowd was very confused. "He must have a regeneration quirk as well," said the audience. Deku lunged at Todoroki with a sludge arm. "You know that really hurt," yelled Deku. Deku punched Todoroki hard in the stomach, sending him back. "You are too frozen to continue. Give up or use your flames," yelled Deku. "No, I refuse," yelled Todoroki. Todoroki slammed his fist in the ground, sending a massive ice wall towards Deku. "He likes to teleport behind me, so I'll be ready if he does that again," thought Todoroki internally. Deku thought for a second, then opened a massive portal in front of him. It was truly massive. A tsunami of ice crashed into it, disappearing from view. "Where did it go?" yelled the audience. "Up there," said a member of the crowd. One person of the audience pointed above their heads, and everybody looked up. There, falling from the sky, was the massive amount of ice. Todoroki panicked. "It's your power. Use your fire. Please," said Deku. Todoroki stopped for a second, closing his eyes. This made Deku panic. He got ready to open another portal to catch the ice, but it was interrupted when Todoroki erupted in flames. Deku smiled as Todoroki shot a massive pillar of flames toward the falling ice. It all melted, covering the stadium in rain. Both fighters stood facing each other. Todoroki shot a massive wall of ice at Deku, which Deku dodged by teleporting behind him. However, Todoroki was expecting this. He spun around, firing a pillar of flames at Deku. It was too fast for Deku to react. All he could do was activate his sludge form. The flames hit Deku, immediately vaporizing his sludge. Deku was forced back to normal and fell down to one knee, panting. Without slowing down, Todoroki shot ice at Deku, freezing his leg to the ground. The ice began spreading up his leg. Thinking fast, Deku turned his leg into sludge and then removed it. "Ah, that trick again," said Todoroki. Deku's leg began to regrow, but it was slower than usual. Deku looked down at it in shock. "Come on, regrow. Why isn't it working?" Todoroki then froze Deku's other leg. "You have lost. I had a hunch that your regeneration takes stamina, and I guess I was right. You've run out. If you remove your other leg, you won't be able to walk, but if you don't, I'll freeze you solid." Deku looked up at Todoroki. "No, I won't give up," yelled Deku. Deku turned his arms into massive sludge arms, then pushed off the ground. His legs tore off. Deku leapt over Todoroki and crashed into the ground behind him. Deku laid on his side, exhausted. "I don't want to lose," said Deku. Todoroki walked over and pushed Deku onto his back. Deku's legs were only about half healed. Ice began to flow out of Todoroki's leg and spread up Deku's arm to his chest. "You've lost. Give up," said Todoroki. The ice stopped when it reached Deku's neck. Deku raised his hand to try and grab Todoroki, but then it fell back to the ground. "This is over." Todoroki was cut off. A portal suddenly opened up underneath him. Instinctively, Todoroki released a massive amount of ice. It covered the entire stage and stopped him from falling through the portal. Todoroki jumped over Deku and generated a fire blast. Deku smiled and closed his eyes. "Yeah, you win. I'm too tired," said Deku. The crowd cheered as Todoroki melted the ice covering Deku. Deku's left leg finished healing, and Todoroki helped him up. "What an impressive fight," yelled Present Mike. Deku was sent to Recovery Girl to rest. The festival continued, ending in a victory for Bakugo. An hour later, All Might walked in to Recovery Girl's office to see Deku lying in the bed having a snack. "Oh, All Might, I found out the weakness of my super regeneration. To regrow something serious, I have to use a lot of stamina." "Oh, that's good to know. How are you doing?" said All Might. "I'm great now. Legs are good as new. I just need something to eat," said Deku. Deku held up a packet of sausage rolls, offering one to All Might. I'm good. No stomach, remember, said All Might. Deku nodded, then ate another sausage roll. Oh, and I thought about what you said. I'll do it, said Deku. Wait, really? Said All Might. Yeah, I've been acting selfishly. I can't be a strong hero without more powerful quirks, said Deku. That's great, said All Might. All Might ruffled Deku's hair, then walked out. The next day, Deku teleported into class just before the bell. Aizawa sighed, then began speaking. Good, looks like everyone is here. We will be starting the internship program in the coming weeks. You can choose who you want to work with from the people who have asked for you. Aizawa pulled up a slide showing the numbers of agencies who had sent invitations to each student. Deku looked at the board and found that he had a pretty big number of invites. You will be starting Monday. Midori, I understand you have a visit to Tartarus prison on Monday. You will do that, and then you will start on Tuesday. Make sure your chosen internship understands this and is okay with them. Why is he going to Tartarus? Is it something to do with his quirk? Asked the other students. Deku nodded, and Aizawa turned to Kirishima. Kirishima, All Might wants to talk to you in the faculty lounge. Go there after we are done here, said Aizawa. What the? Why does he want to talk to me? Asked Kirishima. I didn't ask. Now everyone, take a long look at who sent you an invitation and decide well. These lessons you will learn will shape your future. Dismissed. Aizawa handed out the paperwork and then left. What did I do for All Might to want to talk to me? Asked Kirishima. Don't worry about it, man. He's probably just impressed about your performance at the sports festival, said Deku. It seems like overkill, but okay, said Kirishima. Kirishima walked out the room and down the hall. He pulled open the door to see All Might and Principal Nezu sat inside. Sit down, young man, said All Might. Kirishima was very confused. Am I getting expelled? Asked Kirishima. Kirishima was half joking, but he was also kind of worried. No, you aren't, said Nezu. Kirishima sat down and All Might began speaking. Why do you want to become a hero? Asked All Might. Kirishima froze. He flashed back to that time when he failed to protect his classmates. Last year, someone was in trouble and I didn't help. I failed them. Luckily, someone else stepped in, but it could have ended badly. I want to be a hero to protect people. I won't let people down like that again. I see, said All Might. All Might stood up. Please, walk with me, said All Might. Kirishima stood up and walked behind All Might. They walked for about 10 minutes until they got to one of the testing fields. Young Midoriya says that you have a great drive and determination. Show me, said All Might. All Might lunged at Kirishima. Quickly, Kirishima hardened himself to take the hit, but it was too powerful. He was thrown back into a wall. Kirishima fell to the floor, coughing. What will you do against a superior enemy? Run? Hide? Or will you stand and fight? Said All Might. Kirishima raised his head and swung a hardened fist towards All Might. It was caught. All Might grabbed it and threw Kirishima away. You don't want to let people down? How will you keep that promise if you can't stand? Said All Might. Kirishima got to his feet, shaking. I won't give up. That's what it means to be a man, said Kirishima. Kirishima lunged at All Might, tackling him. Of course it didn't hurt All Might. All Might tapped Kirishima on the head. Okay, you passed the test, said All Might. Kirishima let go, confused about what was going on. I'm sorry for being so rough on you, but I needed to be sure, said All Might. What was this all about? Sit with me, said All Might. All Might sat down on the bench, and Kirishima sat next to him. I can pass my power on to another, said All Might. Kirishima was shocked. He had never heard of anything like that. I'm choosing you, said All Might. Kirishima looked up at All Might, confused. Why me? Asked Kirishima. You have a strong heart, and a deep sense of what is right and wrong. Kirishima looked down at his hands. But I'm weak. I couldn't even protect someone. All Might put his hand on Kirishima's shoulder. I believe that you can do it. You don't give up. But I failed in the past. Then let that drive you. Don't let it define you. Grow past it, and don't let anyone be scared again, said All Might. Kirishima raised his head, looking at All Might. Are you sure? Asked Kirishima. I'm certain. Then I accept, said Kirishima. All Might smiled and pulled a hair out of his head, handing it to Kirishima. Eat this, said All Might. Wait, what the? Kirishima said. To inherit my power, you have to swallow my DNA, said All Might. Hesitantly, Kirishima swallowed the hair. You should be able to use the quirk in a few hours. Be careful with it, as it is insanely powerful, and without control, you will break your body. Try just using 5% to start off. Kirishima nodded. The week continued, and eventually it was time for Deku's visit to Cerberus prison. All Might came with him. They pulled up to the massive black building and stepped out of the car. They stood before 2 gigantic metal doors. Deku gulped. Noticing this, All Might placed a very big hand on his shoulder. Don't worry, you'll be fine, said All Might. Just as All Might finished talking, the gigantic doors slowly opened and the warden walked out. Ah, welcome All Might and Izuku Midoriya. Very glad that you accepted my offer. As asked, I've drawn up a list of our prisoners and their powers. Feel free to choose anyone, but I would like you to focus on our higher security prisoners. The warden handed Deku a booklet of full pictures and information. Deku flipped through it, looking for the most interesting quirks. How many do I have to take? Asked Deku. As many as you are comfortable with. Ideally, I'd have you take everyone's power, but even just one will be a massive help, said the warden. Deku continued to flick through the pages until his eyes were caught by 2 quirks. Can I have these 2? Asked Deku. The warden leaned over, taking a look at the paper. Shadows and energy transfer. Interesting choice, the warden said. The warden took back the leaflet and handed it to the guard. Get those 2 ready, said the warden. The guard walked off as the warden led All Might and Deku inside the prison. Young man, I hope you can become a frequent visitor here. I am very grateful for you helping us out. Deku smiled but kept his head down. He still hated the idea of taking someone's quirk, but he needed to get stronger so he could protect people. They walked quite a while, surprising Deku at the size of the prison. Eventually they arrived at their destination. They are just through here, said the warden. Deku gulped and All Might placed his hand on Deku's shoulder. You can do this, said All Might. Deku walked through the door, followed by the warden and All Might. Inside there were 2 people in straitjackets tied to the chairs. Oh, we are so lucky. We get a visit from the warden and All Might. I'd bow, but as you can see, said prisoner 1. Who's the kid? He looks kind of scared. Well, at least he's smart, said prisoner 2. The prisoners laughed. Deku closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Slowly he opened his eyes and crimson lightning began to flow out of his hands. The prisoners' mocking faces turned to confusion and then fear in seconds. Deku began slowly walking towards them. Hey, back up. What's this about? What are you going to do? Asked prisoner 1. Deku reached out his hand and held it above each of their heads. I'm sorry, said Deku. Deku lowered his hands, resting them on top of the prisoner's head. Immediately they began screaming and squirming. Deku gritted his teeth. Almost there, he said. Deku opened his eyes, and they were glowing red. All Might gulped. This was the first time he had seen anything like this happen up close, and it was seriously unnerving. As soon as All Might finished what he was thinking about, the crimson lightning flickered and faded. Deku let go of the prisoners' heads, his hands steaming. What the hell did you do to us? Asked prisoner 1. Deku looked them in the eyes and spoke quietly. I took your quirks. You won't hurt anyone again, and maybe these powers can finally be used for some good. Deku turned away and All Might saw the solemn look in his eyes. Come on, kid, let's get you home, said All Might. The warden ordered the guard to take the prisoners back to their cells, then followed Deku and All Might, escorting them out. So, when can we expect to see you again? Asked the warden. I don't know, said Deku. Young Midoriya appreciates all that you've done for him, but his power comes with some psychological difficulties, said All Might. Deku lowered his head. I understand. Give me a call whenever you are ready, said the warden. Deku and All Might said goodbye, then walked back to the car. You okay, kid? Asked All Might. Yeah, I'll be fine. I just worry if I'm doing the right thing, said Deku. I can't say if it's right to take their powers, but it is okay to feel this way. I respect you so much because you have the compassion even for villains. You are a great hero and your feelings are evidence of that. Let's get you home so you can get some sleep. The next day would be the start of his internship. End of chapter 6.